Overlook Horizon High Altitude Balloons, an Ontario County nonprofit.
This is no ordinary balloon.
What a view!
Over 110,000 feet.
This is incredible.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Tori here from Overlook Horizon, coming to you live this morning here for a nice, real early morning launch, at least on the West Coast here. Not too early for us here on the East Coast, but this is the final Delta II launch for United Launch Alliance, which is the Delta II. Let's see, which way do I gotta lean? Is that beautiful rocket there that's behind me? That's not a live view. We'll switch over to the live view here in just a few minutes, but I love that gorgeous like teal color there to this particular rocket here. But this is the last time that this rocket will fly. This has been flying since 1989 and has flown, I think it's 155 missions. Had 2 anomalies back in the 90s, and if we launch successfully today, assuming everything goes well, this will be the 100th consecutive launch, consecutive successful launch for the Delta II platform. So it's been a huge mainstay of the rocket or aerospace industry here for almost 30 years. This Delta II rocket's been around, and now today it's going to make its final flight carrying NASA's ICESat-2. Which is it's a follow-up to ICESat, well, I call it ICESat-1, but it's not really ICESat-1, it's just ICESat, the original ICESat, I suppose. But the original ICESat was launched years ago, actually decommissioned in 2010. And this satellite was supposed to go up in 2015, but got pushed back, delayed a couple of times, and now here we are, late 2018, and we're finally getting the chance to put this up into polar orbit this morning, and then this will help. The idea behind this satellite here is it's going to start mapping some of the ice structure around the Earth. It's also going to measure some vegetation, things like that, the ice thickness and mass, and basically track how our planet's doing here. So it's another science mission here from NASA that's going to be taking a look here at us on planet Earth. And hopefully everything goes well today with this final launch here. So I see a bunch of people jumping on board here. My comments for YouTube for some reason are not working. I don't know why that is, but I can see them now here finally. So I see Gregorius, I see Bruno here hanging out with us. Alex Ziggyful says, good morning, everybody. Hashtag Space Lobster. Fort Lauderdale, Florida today is also in the house with Jason. And everybody's giving their goodbyes to the final Delta II rocket this morning. So launch time today is 8:46 a.m. Eastern time. That's 5:46 Pacific time, and what is that? 12:46 UTC. So we're about a little less than half an hour away from launch time. So we got a little bit of time here, and actually NASA has started their they've started their coverage. I'm not going to switch over to it quite yet, but it's up over my shoulder there. We'll switch over to it in just a moment here, and I'll leave that up. But right now they're talking about wind and weather, and kind of getting the basics set out here for the mission. But we're going to talk about that a little bit. But weather, one of the things that I thought was pretty neat all week long is that they kept reporting the weather as a 100% chance of successful or of acceptable weather conditions, which is very unusual to see. Pretty awesome, but a 100% chance. They're leaving no percentage, 0% chance that the weather will not be acceptable, which is it's pretty unusual to see. Usually, even when they're very, very confident that things are going to be okay, they'll still say 90% chance of acceptable conditions, and they'll leave that slight 10% chance that maybe something changes, but not particularly. For this launch, we've been 100% chance of successful weather, so weather doesn't look like it will be an issue. And here, I'm going to switch over. We'll switch over to this while I talk, because everybody wants to see the rocket, right? That's the actual thing that we want to see. I'll turn up the volume here in just a few minutes. But the 100% chance of successful or of acceptable weather conditions for today's flight. So it sounds like weather's not going to be an issue. And in addition to that, we're also looking at no fog at Vandenberg this morning, which is pretty unusual as well. A lot of times at Vandenberg Air Force Base out on the West Coast, you get these early morning launches and the fog just rolls in. If you remember a couple of weeks ago during the SpaceX Vandenberg launch, we could not see the rocket at all. It was completely covered in fog. It didn't appear anywhere, and we couldn't see it until after liftoff and after it broke through the clouds. Then you could finally see the rockets. But yeah, so there's no fog happening here today. And the biggest story of the day, really, I guess, is that my comments are not working, which is really quite annoying. I mean, I'm having to switch back and forth between all of these, so I'm trying to frantically fix this while I'm talking at the same time, because I thought everything was working just fine, but apparently not. We're going to see. Yeah, it says, please start your event. My event has started, right? Everybody's there. Everybody can see what's happening here, right? Yeah, so somebody asked, what's the T-minus at? So United Launch Alliance, oh, there they go. They just threw up the clock. United Launch Alliance has 2 different clocks that they run. Most launches do, but a lot of times the T-minus and the L-minus are the same. And so the T-minus clock is actually at about, I think it said like 14 minutes. And there's an L-minus clock that United Launch Alliance publishes quite frequently because of their countdown procedure. But the L- clock is the time until actual liftoff. So really at this point, what you're probably more concerned with is the L- clock. The L- was at about 26 minutes, meaning we have about 26 minutes until liftoff. The T- clock was actually at like 14 minutes. You think, well, why are we seeing 14 minutes? The rocket's not launching in 14 minutes. And that's because they have a huge built-in hold towards the end of the launch window. So they will run that down for another 10 minutes here until about, I think, 8:31 or 8:32. And then they're going to hold the T- clock. And that's a built-in hold. That's an intentional hold. And that will last for a very long time. And they hold it at T-4 minutes. And that will last until 4 minutes before launch. So that's their final hold and their final checkout, so that they can see if there's anything going on or anything going wrong with the rocket or the ground systems before they actually launch. And one thing that's a little bit unusual for today, so this is a polar orbiting satellite. So that's one of pretty much the main types of satellites that launch from Vandenberg on the West Coast. Because they're polar orbiting, they launch from California so that they can go on a southern trajectory and go over the south and north poles. And generally with polar orbits, you usually see an instantaneous launch window. A lot of times they're like 1 second launch windows, like it has to launch at this specific time. And today we don't have that. Today the launch window actually lasts for a little over an hour. So it's very interesting, and I don't know the specific reasons for that, but it is something of note or something of interest that a polar orbiting satellite has the leeway to actually launch anytime within a 1 hour span, because when you think about a polar orbit, the Earth is rotating, and so the reason that they're usually instantaneous is you want to hit a very specific north-south channel when you launch. And so that's why it's instantaneous, is because you want to get that satellite into that very specific spot in orbit. And so today it was kind of a long launch window, which is unusual for a polar orbiting satellite. So let's see. Are any of my comments going to work? I don't. Yeah, it says there. Well, really, actually, what it says is that I haven't started my event yet, but I'm pretty sure all of you guys are seeing this. And it says unknown event status. Okay, well, that's what happens with live broadcasts, I suppose. because I'm getting nothing. I can see the YouTube comments, so it's not like I'm completely missing them. I just have to keep clicking back and forth between all the different platforms, and usually when I'm doing these broadcasts, I have one main panel where I can see all the comments coming in, so I don't have to keep switching back and forth between 1,000 different panels. So this is going to be a little bit tough today, but so anyways, well, let's take a look at some of the info, and then we'll turn up the volume here in just a few minutes, because we still got we're about 20 minutes away from launch here this morning. They're doing some chatting here, and while they're chatting, we'll switch over and look at some of the mission details. So this is a mission profile image from their mission overview booklet here. So actually, before we even get into this, here's what we should look at this first, because this is a little more interesting. So this is the Delta II rocket that is launching today. The last time the Delta II will launch today. So they've got that. The Delta II is famous for that teal body that it has, the teal fuel tank. And then it's also, the other thing it's very famous for is that it can support up to 9 solid rocket motors on the outside. Today we don't have 9. Today we have 4. 4 strap-on solid rocket boosters. Didn't really need that many today, but so yeah, you'll see those 4 strap-on solid rocket boosters on the side, and then the second stage is up on top there, followed by the payload adapter and ICESat-2. And then also on board the second stage are, I think it's 4 CubeSats. Another thing that's kind of interesting for today's flight is that when we look at the mission timeline here, which I'll switch over to in just a second, you have the satellite getting deployed and separated first, and then the CubeSats getting deployed and separated, which is also a little bit unusual. A lot of times you see these launches and the primary payload is the last thing to go. They do the CubeSats first, but I guess it's not crazy unusual to do CubeSats second, but it's that is what's happening today. So the main satellite, or the primary mission, is going to get deployed, and then a few minutes later they're going to deploy the CubeSats. So let's see. Sorry, I saw somebody's comment here that had my name in it, and I didn't read. I'm going to try to read these to myself this time after I read a sketchy comment last time. Let's see. You only need to hit a very specific latitude if you're launching a communication satellite, since this one needs to drift anyways. I guess it's not too time sensitive. Yeah, so that's Gregorius on YouTube's mentioning the large launch window for this particular satellite. And yeah, a communication satellite definitely has to hit a very specific area. But yeah, this is a Earth science mission, so presumably, like Gregorius says, it's it can flex a little bit, because it's just going to be measuring the Earth, and it's going to continually measure the Earth as it goes around and around. So not necessarily, it doesn't have to hit a very specific corridor there. So anyways, there's the rocket, and this is the mission overview, or the mission profile that we were talking about before here. So you can see the actual launch profile and what's going to happen. So we'll have liftoff, we'll have the solid rocket boosters separate, we'll have first stage separation. Now, United Launch Alliance is not like SpaceX. So this, where they'll recover the booster, this is going to be expended, which is not really a big deal. I mean, that's how it was done forever until SpaceX came around. So this was pretty typical for rocket launches. So yeah, this first stage is going to get expended. Same thing with the payload fairings. When they separate, they're going to be expended. Then we'll have a second stage burn. We'll have a cutoff. We'll have another quick 7-second second stage burn. And then we'll have spacecraft deployment for the satellite. And then I think there's another burn, actually, and then CubeSats are deployed here. I can throw up the timeline, make this a little bit bigger so you can see the timeline here. So we have ignition. Ignition actually happens just 2 seconds before liftoff. And another interesting thing for United Launch Alliance is they always publish their mission timelines down to the 10th of a second, which is crazy to me. It's very precise, and I've always thought that they were very precise, and I'm sure that internally they were very precise. I just find it interesting that United Launch Alliance not only has that precision internally, but also publishes it externally and tells people, like, these are the exact times that these are happening. So engine ignition is T-minus 2.7 seconds. Then Mach 1 is at 30.7 seconds. Max Q is at 46 seconds. The solid rocket boosters are jettisoned at 1 minute 22.5 seconds. Then we have MECO at 4 minutes 24.7 seconds, and so on. So I'm probably not going to read through all of these, but we got separation, second stage ignition, we get the payload fairing, we get our first cutoff, and quite a long coast phase. But stick around during the coast phase, because on the YouTube channel we're going to be giving away some stuff. So if you're watching over on the YouTube channel, we got a Parker Solar Probe ball, so this fits right in for United Launch Alliance. This was their last launch that we covered with the Delta 4 Heavy there on this. There's the Delta 4 Heavy on the side of my ball with my ring light kind of sticking in. But we're going to be giving away one of these Parker Solar Probe balls on the YouTube channel, so you got to be on the YouTube channel if you want to watch. You can still watch on the Facebook and Periscope and everything else, but in order to be eligible to win the Parker Solar Probe ball after launch, you got to be on the YouTube channel. So we'll do that during the coast phase there while we're waiting for the ICESat-2 to separate. We may give away some stickers as well. We got a sticker giveaway happening on Twitter too, if you're on Twitter. But anyways, so then so we get spacecraft separation, and then we have a brief little restart for the second stage again. So there's a third burn and then another cutoff, and then the CubeSats are deployed. And then there's another restart and cutoff for the actual, which they're actually publishing, but for the what's the word I'm looking for? It's they're bringing the second stage back to Earth. I'm completely drawing a blank on what I'm trying to say there. But they're going to return the second stage back to Earth and expend it into the atmosphere. There's a drawing a blank here. I'm used to all these late night launches recently with SpaceX and United Launch Alliance having these 3 o'clock in the morning launches. I think every launch all summer long has been like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. They've been so late at night. So anyways, they've been. It's finally nice to get a launch that's at like a normal time during the day. At least for me on the East Coast, 8:30 in the morning. This is pretty good here for the East Coast. Let's see. I'm going to switch over here. Let's pull the rocket bag up because they're showing that again, and we'll get the volume up here in just a second. I was just checking out people's comments here, so I see a bunch of people watching on Periscope. So thanks for the hearts on Periscope. Really appreciate that. Thanks, guys. And a couple people watching over on the YouTube channel as well. Definitely check out the YouTube channel if you want to win one of that Parker Solar Probe beach ball that courtesy of United Launch Alliance. They were super generous and sent us a whole bunch of those beach balls, so we'll be giving those away for a while. So thanks very much to United Launch Alliance and Tori Bruno over there for sending us those beach balls. Let's see. Oh, Sandy wants a beach ball. Sandy was down at our NASA social event for the NASA TESS launch back in April. So thanks for joining us, Sandy. Good to see you again here. And she wants to win that Parker Solar Probe beach ball for her classroom. She's a teacher. I forget where, but she is a teacher and wants to bring a Parker Solar Probe beach ball. They're actually pretty cool. I thought it was a pretty neat promotional item to make a beach ball that's, you know, like the beach ball is supposed to be the sun, and you get there's the Parker Solar Probe there flying in front of the sun. That's pretty cool, right? Could have just been you know, a sticker or something, but they went with beach balls. That's pretty cool. Anyways, all right, well, let's turn up the volume. We're about just over 10 minutes away, 12 minutes from launch here, so not too far away. So we'll turn the volume up here. We'll see what they're chatting about, and then I can check out the comments, and you guys can watch along, and we'll see what's happening here. Turn this up here.
Right now. So it sounds like Tim's going to push his pole just a little bit. Sounds like the team may be working some bottle temperature issues. We'll hear a little bit more about that once the team evaluates that. Again, that's exactly what these holes are built in for, is to give the team a chance to look at those things, make sure they come within their requirements. So we'll kind of keep an ear out and see when Tim comes back for that poll.
Yeah, while we're waiting, I want to go ahead and actually throw to a profile video, a launch profile video we've got from United Launch Alliance of the Delta II mission today. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what the whole flight of today's mission is.
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Start and liftoff. Delta II rocket.
The Delta RS-27A main engine and 4 solid rocket motors ignite to lift the final Delta II rocket away from the pad. Shortly after liftoff, Delta begins a pitch over to attain the proper flight path while minimizing the pressure the vehicle experiences during flight. The Delta II reaches Mach 1, the speed of sound, at 30 seconds. At 1 minute 23 seconds, the 4 ground-lit solid rocket motors are jettisoned. 4 minutes 24 seconds into flight, cutoff of the main engine, or MECO-1, occurs. 8 seconds later, the Delta II separation system activates, releasing the first stage. The vehicle now weighs a little less than 6% of what it did at liftoff. 6 seconds after first stage separation, the second stage engine ignites. At 5 minutes, the payload fairing is jettisoned. The second stage engine cutoff, or SECO-1, occurs at 10 minutes 53 seconds. The second stage and satellite now enter a coast phase for 36 minutes 41 seconds. At 47 minutes 33 seconds into flight, the second stage engine is reignited for a second burn. Second engine cutoff 2 occurs 7 seconds later. At 52 minutes 40 seconds, the Delta II releases NASA's ICESat-2 on its mission to gather data to track terrain changes, including glaciers, sea ice, forests, and more. Approximately 18 minutes later, the second stage engine ignites for a third burn. The third second engine cutoff occurs at nearly 71 minutes. Deployment of the first CubeSat occurs at nearly 76 minutes, followed 2 minutes later by the second CubeSat. The final 2 CubeSats are deployed 2 minutes later at just over 79 minutes. Together, the CubeSats will conduct space weather research.
All right, so Tim, we're still waiting on NASA launch manager Tim Dunn. He will be coming in at some point in the near future to update us. But for now, we're gonna kind of just we're gonna move into a holding pattern on our end, just to kind of wait and see what they're doing, because obviously we're taking our cues from the launch teams today. Launch teams being a big topic of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've said we a lot. I want to talk a little bit about the launch teams that are out here. We've got Northrop Grumman, which is the spacecraft side. They constructed the spacecraft. Also Goddard Space Flight Center from NASA, a big part of that, the science there. We've got the U.S. Air Force. We have NASA Launch Services Program. And then we also have the United Launch Alliance. Obviously, it's their Delta II this morning. So what all are these teams doing to kind of bring this together?
So you're absolutely right, Joshua. We use we a lot when it comes to launching a mission, and it does take a huge team effort. As you outlined, 4 major team players here for this mission, this final Delta II historic, starting with Northrop Grumman, who not only built the spacecraft in their Gilbert facility in Arizona, but they worked with Goddard Space Flight Center, who built the Atlas instrument that we heard about that's on the spacecraft also. Northrop Grumman provided the graphite epoxy motors, the 4 GEM or solid rocket motors that are on the Delta II today that are there. The range, our partners at the United States Air Force, they play an important part in tracking the vehicle and providing personnel safety around the area for the launch. That's a huge thing that needs to be accomplished to make mission success. And of course, our ULA and NASA teams.
I'm going to turn this down just a minute here while they're giving thanks to everybody.
Both teams work very close together.
So and I'm going to take this out of my ear here so I could actually talk and not listen to it for a second. But what I wanted to say here is, so basically right now we are in the T-4 minute planned hold. So this is a planned hold and could still go on as intended at 8:46. But it sounds like right now they are having, they're working an issue with helium bottle temperatures. And so that's the issue that they talked about when we first switched over. So don't know too many details on what's happening with with that, I'm finding this out just like you guys are. I was taking a minute while they're playing that package, trying to see if I could get some more information to find out what's happening. But all I know at the moment is that they're tracking a helium bottle temperature issue at the moment and trying to resolve that, which hopefully they will do. That's a lot of what this last planned hold is here for United Launch Alliance. They can work out some of these issues, and then if it's worked out, they can go right to the T-4 minutes and start it back up again. If not, then, like I said earlier, this is unusual, but they do have a larger launch window today, even though it is a polar orbiting satellite. They've got, I think it's like an hour and 3 minutes or something like that. So we got some time to launch today. They can reset and recycle. And it may just be as simple as extending that hold even longer, so they just don't restart the T-4 minute clock until they get a little bit later into the window. So potential that we could go a little bit further. So there you go. There's the T- time and the L- time. And actually does look like now that they have updated the L- time. I'm going to turn this up here so we can listen in here.
We're dealing with some temperatures in the tanks today, but on a grander scheme, there's a lot of things that can cause delays for launch. We've discussed weather already. Obviously, we have this with some temperatures. What else is there?
Yeah, as you were saying, Joshua, they've extended this hold, so we've got about 17 minutes and 20 seconds left built in this hold, and that allows the team to go off and look at these temperatures that we heard them talking about. They need to be able to make sure all components on the vehicle are within the right specifications and configured properly, and in this case, it's some second stage bottle temps that we need to watch and make sure they're in range prior to liftoff this morning. So that's one thing the team is continuing to do, and just watching those come down into range. We have had other things that cause delays, like you said, weather delays and stuff. Great for today. We don't have any POV of weather, and 7 miles or plus visibility. I'm very happy about that. Yeah. So folks will be able to see this Delta II once we lift off this morning. But unique situations on both the east and the west coast from where we launch rockets from. You can have we talked about the United States Air Force range operations, and they monitor also out in the ocean areas, because of course we're launching due south out of Vandenberg, and so we want to make sure personnel safety there. So we have a box that we kind of call the box that we have to lift off and fly into, and we want to make sure that nobody's in that box. So the United States Air Force monitors that to make sure we don't have boats. You wouldn't think about it, but sometimes boats get in the box and cause a delay, and we have to work around those things. But one unique thing out here at Vandenberg Air Force Station was Vandenberg Air Force Base was built around the railroad tracks. And so we actually have Amtrak who runs through the base, and actually pretty close to Slick 2 there where the Delta II is. And we have had in past years a train come through, and we've had to work around our launch countdown on that. So another unique feature that could possibly delay a launch. Hopefully we don't have that today, but that is a feature here at Vandenberg.
It seems like something you could predict. And, maybe hold the train up a minute while you launch a rocket.
What looks like a new launch time for us. We're counting down towards that. And we want to emphasize again that there's nothing wrong with the launch vehicle.
Oh, absolutely not.
These are not issues. It's just that we're
so I'm going to turn this down for a second. So they're working towards a new launch time of 6:02 a.m. Pacific time. That's 9:02 a.m. Eastern time. So it's about 15 minutes. They got 16 minutes later than what they had intended on launching. So about a 15-minute delay that they're pushing towards right now. But that's still pretty good. We got about, like I said, hour and 3 minutes in this launch window. So we got plenty of time here that we can get this launch off here today. Now the sun is starting to shine. Sun comes in over the window right behind my camera, so you're seeing this giant sunspot on my shirt now.
Yeah. This kind of is an interesting time to talk about the launch window today. Our NASA launch manager, Tim Dunn, earlier in the week characterized this launch window as requiring some mental gymnastics. I loved that term. I think it's really fun. There's some unique situations where the spacecraft usually sets the requirement for a launch window based on where they're trying to go and what they're trying to do. And part of the requirement was they wanted their first day to be mostly in sunlight.
That's correct.
So for the spacecraft side, they said we have a 2 hour and 34-minute window where if you launch any time in there, we're in good shape.
Right.
And And the rocket itself has a very different kind of launch window based on its capacities.
Yeah, absolutely. The history of Delta II, you heard Dr. Zerbukin talk about. We've launched a lot of science payloads, Mars landers, GPS missions, commercial missions. Typically, those have been on an instantaneous window when we have to hit like a 1 to 2 second window, something under 15 minutes, right? With the ICESat-2 mission, as you mentioned, the spacecraft identified a 2 hour and 34-minute window. So the team had to go back and look at the rocket and how we fuel it with the RP-1 and liquid oxygen. And due to LOX on board time or liquid oxygen on board time in the tank, there's a certain requirement we have to meet to keep the temperatures of the rocket and the structure within their requirements. So once we started LOX loading, the team ran some quick calculations along with the ambient air temperatures outside, the temperature of the RP-1 fuel, and came up with a 63-minute window this evening. And so that 63-minute window is what we have available inside the 2 hour 34-minute spacecraft window. And what the team can do, and we've heard this just recently, is we can move that window around inside that 234. And so that's what NASA Launch Manager Tim Dunn and Launch Director Tom Heater have done, is they've reset that window to 13:02 Zulu for our new T0 time.
Yeah, so we had the spacecraft requirements, we had the rocket ability and requirements, and then there's other things too that factor in. Like there was an issue deep into our launch window today with some collision avoidance, or you'll hear the term COLAs. We're just making sure that on launch that there's nothing that we have a potential to impact the spacecraft during ascent. And so that actually, I think that cut off a few minutes on the back end.
It did. We heard that early on in the count that we had a slightly longer window than the 63 minutes that we're identifying. I think there were 8 COLA cutouts, what we refer to as cutouts, or opportunities that we couldn't launch. They were on the back side of that window. So the team, the launch management team, decided to narrow that window to 63 minutes based on those COLA cutouts. And those are mainly safety call-outs, range safety cutouts, so that we, as you said, don't hit something in space or something that's out there once we launch.
Sure. So yeah, I want to update you all. You're seeing on screen
So they're going to come recap here, and I guess I'm going to talk over them here for just a moment here. But so now they're looking at a slight delay. Should have been 8:46, which was 1 minute ago, but we're pushing to 9:02 Eastern Time, which is about pretty much 15 minutes from now, exactly 15 minutes from now for the launch of the Delta II. So this is really hard to talk while this guy's talking in my ear, because it's still, I turned the volume down for you guys, but it's still full volume in my ear, and trying to talk and listen to him at the same time. So we're going to helium bottle temperature issue, push the launch by 15 minutes here. That's a helium bottle temperature on the second stage, the upper stage of the Delta II here. So hopefully everything will go well for that. But something that I thought was kind of interesting that they were talking about is the launch window. So I've been mentioning for a while it's a 63-minute launch window, but it was actually a much larger launch window for the spacecraft. So the spacecraft, I forget what he said the exact time was, like 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that. So basically the 63-minute launch window is due to the fueling procedures that United Launch Alliance uses, particularly for the liquid oxygen, which has to come into it's stored super cold, and as it heats up, it can increase pressure. It has to be vented if it's still on the ground. So that 63-minute window is really for basically the preservation of the rocket once they start the liquid oxygen fueling there. And that's one of the reasons that SpaceX has kind of started experimenting with that load and go procedure that they had mentioned so much of, is that they wanted to try to get the liquid oxygen on the rocket just at the very last minute. So when you see SpaceX launches, they start the liquid oxygen loading at just 35 minutes before liftoff, versus the traditional way to fuel a rocket was to start putting the fuel in hours before launch, or at least an hour or a little more than an hour before launch. So they put the RP-1 and the liquid oxygen in ahead of time. They would actually plan on putting in more liquid oxygen than they needed, and so they'd be continually topping it off as they got closer and closer to launch. But that 63-minute window is really just for that's kind of the maximum time that they want to keep liquid oxygen on board the rocket before launch. So
done really well recently. We're green till 1335 Zulu. Great news there. We've coordinated a new T0 of 1302 Z with the range, and that has been approved. And we have evaluated the second stage bottles, both helium and nitrogen. Nitrogen is back in temp, and we're waiting for helium to come back in very shortly. So we are in good shape right now to proceed toward count. So with that, I'd like to conduct our launch readiness poll, beginning with NASA CE.
NASA CE, go.
SMA.
SMA's go.
SMD.
SMD is go. Godspeed, ICESat-2.
NASA MEM.
NASA MEM is go.
LSP.
LSP is go.
NLM copies. The NASA team is go for the ICESat-2 mission on Delta II.
Awesome. So there you go. Tim Dunn concluding his poll. Not terribly long, but again, making sure that we got to make sure that we get everybody on the same page. We're all ready to fly.
Making sure that team, like we talked that team, right? Making sure the whole team is together and ready to go. And Tim is our representative to Scott Barney, the launch conductor at ULA, to give the final goal for the NASA management team and the spacecraft team. And I can just tell you, sitting here, it's exciting to hear all those goes, and everybody's ready to go. And that just means we're ready to start progressing into the terminal count. What we refer to as terminal count is the last 4 minutes of launch this morning. So with that, I just had chills hearing that from the team giving their go and being focused and ready.
So here's something that I wanted to bring up here real quick.
Weather's in good shape.
Which Tori Bruno had just mentioned out on Twitter. So in regards to the helium bottle temperatures on the upper stage, he said that they charge them, which heats the helium bottles thermodynamically, and then they have to cool them back down. And it's actually that cooling process. After they charge them, which heats the helium bottles up a little bit, they have to cool them back down, and that cooling process is taking a little longer than it had in previous launches. So it says the cooling process is going a little slower than their previous history. So really, it sounds like this is a normal thing that they deal with. It's just that the cooling is not happening as fast as it has normally happened in the past, but it is on track, and so doesn't sound like a malfunction necessarily. It's just that the process is taking a little longer as far as cooling goes. So they're just extending that a little longer so they can cool it a little more and get the temperatures within the range that they need to have for launch. So something interesting from Tori Bruno out on Twitter. That's the CEO for United Launch Alliance.
Yeah, and you are watching live launch coverage of the final Delta II mission to launch ICESat-2 into space here early this morning here on the Pacific coast. We are right now at about L-minus 9 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. Still at T-minus 4 minutes and holding. Again, that's all part of the plan. We're just proceeding through the countdown. This is a very choreographed process where the steps are laid out and people have roles and responsibilities, assignments. Make sure your system's in good shape and make sure that you're ensuring that everything comes together to get us off the ground safely.
That's correct, Joshua. Team is looking.
So also a couple people on Periscope asked what time are we launching. So we're pushing for a launch of 9:02 a.m. Eastern Time, 6:02 a.m. Pacific Time, 13:02 UTC. So we're coming up. It's just we got 9 minutes until launch here. So we're coming up.
We're hearing that those
soon
are coming in.
But make sure you stick around. We're going to give away a Parker Solar Pro beach ball on the YouTube channel after launch here, assuming we have a successful launch today.
Towards account at 6:02 a.m.
Yeah, you're getting a chance to see on screen a variety of our control rooms around the base here where people are monitoring systems. So everybody that you see there is a part of the process. They get to claim a piece of success today, which has got to be a great feeling. Mick, you've had that experience before. What are they going through in these last few minutes? What are they experiencing? Is it stress? Is it...
I think the team is focused. I like to use that term because we are down in that terminal count area getting ready to pick it up. We are very focused looking at everything, but we're also excited. launch is an exciting moment, an exciting time. You know, we work many years to get to this point. With ICESat-2, we started work with the spacecraft customer roughly 7 years ago to get to this point. So launch countdown is an exciting time for everybody that's involved, but it takes many years and many team members to get there.
Yeah, you'll have to excuse me. My train of thought got cut off. I heard Tim Dunn chime in, and he was actually declaring that we have those temperatures now back in the range when we need them to be there. So that's a great sign. That's great news. That means that, as predicted, we're now at a point where we think we're ready to fly. That final pull will be coming up here in about the next 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, I think the team is ready, and we'll hear launch conductor Scott Barney talking to his engineering team and the NASA launch management team. And coming out of that hold, we hope to get a proceed to launch from ULA's launch director, Tom Heater. So, you know, we'll step out and let Scott Barney take over the poll here in just a few seconds.
L-7 minutes.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Report go, no go. Talker.
Go.
FSC.
Go.
Prop 1.
Go.
Prop 2.
Go.
PEA.
Go.
PEA.
Go.
VP.
Go.
SCM.
Go.
SYS.
Go.
FAC.
Go.
ATC-3.
Go.
Timer.
Go.
HYE.
Go.
FMA.
Go.
SSC.
Go.
SSP.
Go.
TM1.
Go.
TM2.
Go.
VE.
Go.
ATC-2.
Go.
VSE.
Go.
OSM.
Go.
FACA.
Go.
GE.
Go.
RC.
Clear to proceed.
NASA TM.
Go.
USO.
Go.
AC.
Go.
Launch Director.
LC, you have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. No to personnel, switch to channel 15 after liftoff is confirmed for pad securing.
As an observer, like, it just gets your heart racing, it gets you a little bit excited.
Yes.
All good sounds.
All good sounds, and especially that last one from Tom Heater, launch director there, giving the concurrence to proceed to launch. It's, again, coming out of that hold, exciting to hear the team has had everything in configuration and ready to go, and looking forward to this. We're about 1 minute and 45 seconds before we pick up the count.
We actually should get a word from our spacecraft team here in just a second, declaring that they're also fully ready to proceed.
L-5 hours, 30 minutes.
NSC reports spacecraft is configured for launch.
Roger. LC, spacecraft is configured for launch.
Roger.
So that's another major milestone for the team, is spacecraft has been verified that they're configured for launch, meaning they're on internal power. They've switched from ground power at the pad to their internal batteries, which means they are now ready to proceed and get onto orbit. That's a huge milestone. So again, excitement here that we've gone through the polls and heard the team's ready, the spacecraft team's ready, the team's coming together, and we're looking forward to getting into the count here in just under 1 minute.
Yeah, so again, we'll be coming out of this the T-4 minute
hold,
built-in planned hold. As part of a normal countdown, a choreographed countdown, it's only 10 minutes long. Today we went a little bit long. That's part of the plan. That's okay. That's what it's there for. And so we'll be coming out of that shortly. A pretty active last few minutes. You'll get a chance to hear some of the verifications of various systems being ready, making sure that everything is, it's really just a confirmation of everything being ready.
The team's finalizing their configurations. Things are going to move pretty quickly here as soon as we come out of the hold. And as I said, they're just finalizing, making sure they're all ready to go. They've given their goes, and this is just the final configurations to put the Delta II rocket into its final area for liftoff.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to actually see that now here in about 4, 3, 2, 1. That should be L-4
minutes and counting.
L-4 minutes counting, T-4 minutes and counting. Again, both those clocks are aligned now.
We're synced up
to that liftoff time of 6:02 Pacific time.
First stage internal.
So you can see a lot of venting and condensation coming off the rocket, completely normal. If you follow along with any of these, you'll know that's a normal process.
Again, you're hearing those verifications coming in. So Mick, there's a big milestone that you have it's dear to your heart that comes up here in these last few minutes. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we're hoping to hear over the net here Greenboard, which is a throwback to our Apollo and Mercury days, where the team looks at all their configurations, and everything goes green, and the launch conductor's console, all the lights turn green, and we hear the call out for green board, which is a major milestone to say we are configured, everything's ready, let's get off and fly.
Awesome. So the other thing that's going to happen here is that when we get to after launch, you're going to hear Patrick Moore's voice. He is the United Launch Alliance launch commentator, and he'll be walking you through the first 11 or so minutes of flight. It's a very active 11 minutes.
So we just got confirmation from Tim Dunn, our NASA launch manager. He reported to Tom Heater, launch director, that NASA is go for launch, and all vehicle configurations are finishing up and getting ready to support this 602 liftoff.
Yeah, absolutely. So in these first 11 minutes, you'll hear Patrick Moore talking about, we have the booster jettison, we have the first stage completion, and that jettisons. We have the first second stage ignition, as we saw in the profile video. Right. There's a total of 4 burns of the second stage this morning.
A lot of burns for the second stage.
The payload fairing separate, and then the second stage will shut down for the first time, and that's all done in about 11 minutes, which sounds like a lot of time and no time at all.
It moves pretty quickly. Once the vehicle lifts off the pad and gets on its way through ascent, the first stage does its job, and the GEMs, the graphite epoxy motors, and they separate and come off. The RS-27 throttles down, and then the stage 1 separates from the whole stack. We then have payload fairing jettison, and then second stage engine start, or S1, and that'll fire, getting ICESat-2 into its initial orbit, and SECO-1, or second stage engine cutoff, for our coast phase over Madagascar.
Under a minute and a half
getting
now.
ready to pick up telemetry there, and then getting ready for that second burn, for that basically a 6-second burn, just to get ICESat-2 where it needs to be, going into that polar, almost nearly circular orbit at roughly 92 degrees inclination over the poles. So
yeah, we're at T-minus 1 minute and counting. We're going to let you just enjoy this. Again, you're watching live coverage of the final launch of the Delta II, lifting ICESat-2 into space this morning.
Water flow.
All right, I was going to try to get in and say a word here and there, because those guys kept going for a while. So we'll talk after launch. We'll kind of just watch this.
ATC3, main power disable on.
35.
Hydraulics go.
30.
Status check.
Go Delta 2.
Go ICESat-2.
Guy's got to mute his microphone, though. He's breathing into the microphone, and I can hear it clear as day. That's not
20.
me breathing into the microphone.
15.
Stopping, go.
14.
Green board.
13.
there's
12,
that green board call.
11,
that is great.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff of the final Delta II, launching nearly 3 decades of science research and exploration missions, lifting ICESat-2 on a quest to explore the polar ice sheets of our constantly changing home planet.
How fast it jumps off the pad. That was pretty quick. How quickly it just... seems like it just leaped off the pad. All right, now we need a different camera view. That's it. All right, well, now we're into the computer simulation view here.
27 seconds into flight. 30 seconds in, Mach 1, Delta 2 is now supersonic.
There we go.
Continuing to see good chamber pressure on the RS-27, both veneer engines as well. Seeing consistent fuel and oxidizer injector pressures as well. And at T plus 46 seconds, max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. And at 57 seconds in, we have wet burnout on the solid rocket motors, seeing good responses. And we have burnout on all 4 motors. And Delta will hold on to those motors for an additional 20 seconds prior to jettison.
It's interesting. So they had burnout, but they're going to hold on to the motors for 20 seconds?
Now 1 minute, 20 seconds in, standing by for motor jettison. And we have good indication of jettison of all 4 solid rocket motors.
There you go.
Now 1 minute, 30 seconds into flight. Continuing to see good chamber pressure on the RS-27, good chamber pressures on both veneer engines as well. Seeing stable pressures on the fuel and oxidizer injector pressures. Vehicle body rates looking stable.
So MECO should happen at about 4 minutes and 24 seconds. Not that you guys can see it because we don't have a clock on here, but I guess I'll try to keep an eye on it.
1 minute 55 seconds into flight.
Here, maybe I think I did this on the last United Launch Alliance for Parker. Is I'll get I'm going to start my stopwatch here, and then I can just keep an eye on it, and we'll see.
And 2 minutes 10 seconds in.
And hopefully I can keep an eye on it and
the booster
advise
bilevel
you what
charge
the
is hard to
time is.
maintain necessary ullage pressure in the booster. LOX tank ullage pressure response looks good. 2 minutes 25 seconds in. The booster is now beginning powered flight guidance. Body rate response looks good. And just under 2 minutes now remaining until MECO.
Actually, you know what I probably could do is while we're getting this thing.
And at 2 minutes 45 seconds into flight, continuing to see good performance on the RS-27 main engine, and good chamber pressures on both Veneer engines as well.
I was going to try to add a clock to the overlay, pretty much like the clocks that I put up, the little countdown clock.
Vehicle body rates remain very stable.
As it's
now
before the broadcast begins. All right, so yeah, so we got a successful launch here.
This see good ullage pressures on the fuel and oxidizer tanks. Good
this should
fuel
be,
and oxidizer inlet pressures as well.
Assuming everything goes well, this should be the 100th successful flight of the Delta II rocket here. We're just waiting on
30 seconds into flight.
We're at 3 minutes and 30 seconds into flight. We're waiting for 424, which will be the first main engine cutoff here, coming up here shortly.
RS-27 continuing to perform well, stable chamber pressure and fuel and oxidizer injector pressures, and seeing good stable pressures on both Veneer engines.
You can see that exhaust plume there just getting huge in the upper atmosphere. The pressure gets a little bit lower. It can spread itself
20
out,
seconds remaining until
stretch its legs,
cutoff.
Stretch its exhaust legs there. I do always like that. I like when it gets to that point and it just spreads way out.
Booster stopped active guidance in preparation for MECO. Standing by for engine cutoff. And we have cutoff of the RS-27. Veneer engines continuing to burn as expected. Standing by for Veneer engine cutoff. And we have good Veneer engine cutoff.
Looks like separation.
And now 4 minutes 45 seconds into flight. We've seen good good separation of stage 1 and 2 and good ignition on the second stage. 4 minutes 55 seconds into flight.
So
chamber pressure on the AJ-10 looks good. Body
no
rate's
recovery
looking good.
on that first stage.
And
that
we
will
have
just
good
come
indication of
crashing
fairing
down.
jettison.
Did he just say?
And this first burn of today's mission will last approximately 6 minutes 15 seconds.
Yep. So now we're going towards SECO-1, which is the second stage engine cutoff. Number 1. There will actually be 4 of those because they got 4 burns of this second stage.
And at
so
5
that's
minutes 30 seconds into flight, second stage engine continuing to perform well. Chamber pressure looks good. Seeing good stable hydraulic system pressure. Fuel and oxidizer feedline pressure is also looking very good.
And so SECO-1 will happen at about 11 minutes into flight.
Looking very stable. And 5 minutes remaining in the burn.
Yeah, a bunch of people commenting on that launch. When we go into this coast phase, it's kind of a long coast phase, so probably what I'll do during the coast phase is I want to go back and watch that launch again, because we got a long time during coast, so we're going to have a lot of time to fill and try to see what we have to talk about. But I want to go back. I want to watch that launch again, because I feel like personally it just wasn't. I wasn't ready for how quickly it jumped off the pad. I wish they would have shown a different view of it. It was like
now passing 6 minutes 30 seconds into flight, continuing this first burn of the second stage. Engine performance continues to look good, seeing stable feedline pressures on both fuel and oxidizer systems and good chamber pressure.
And so they were up on one of those up-close pad cameras, and then like at 3 seconds before launch, they switched out to that wide shot to show the whole pad and show the liftoff. I wish they would have stayed on that close-up shot just for a few seconds, but they switched out to that wide shot there. But it seemed like it really just jumped off the pad in a hurry, which was kind of interesting to see. You don't usually, a lot of times it's like you're moving this huge ship here, so it's takes a second to get accelerating. But those solid rocket boosters there, they really give a kick. So with 4 of those on there, it really jumped off the pad in a hurry. So I am gonna pull it back, and we'll watch that again. So we're waiting on second stage engine cutoff, which will happen
7 minutes 35 seconds into flight, seeing minor telemetry drop out, but telemetry has resumed and continue to see good performance on the AJ-10 engine, good feedline pressures on fuel and oxidizer systems, good hydraulic system pressure.
Yeah, so we're just waiting.
Battery currents and voltages all remaining very stable throughout this first burn, and body rates on the second stage remaining very stable as well. Now passing 8 minutes into flight.
And I was trying to see if I could get a mission clock here up on the screen, but apparently my broadcast software, I have countdown clocks and I have count up clocks, but my count up clock will only count up from 0. I can't set the time manually. I was going to try to set a time so that you guys could actually see that we're about 8.5 minutes into flight right now, because I got a little stopwatch running in front of me just on my phone, trying to keep track of the mission timeline here, so I know what's happening and where we are. But they don't have that up on the screen here, unfortunately. So, yeah, somebody on Periscope asked why it's going sideways. So that's a pretty typical orbital
and at 8 minutes 54 seconds into flight, now approximately 2 minutes remaining in the first burn of the second stage. Continuing to see very good performance on the second stage engine. Very stable fuel and oxidizer feedline pressures, hydraulic system pressure.
Stop talking. So to get into
helium bottle pressure decay profile appears to be within family.
Turn you down here. All right, turning him down here for a second. So to get into orbit, you're not going to go straight up because you have to be able to orbit the planet. So you can't just go straight up. So generally, it's going to go. The rocket is going to go up for a little ways to get it away from the ground, but then it's going to start pitching over to get what's called a gravity assist. So it's going to use the Earth's gravity. Well, actually, probably not going to get too much too much of an assist from rotation of the Earth, because this is a polar orbiting satellite. But it's going to pitch over, and eventually you got to go sideways because it's going to, or you got to go parallel to the surface of the Earth in order to orbit it, because that's essentially what you're doing in orbit. Is you're accelerating so fast in the horizontal direction so that as the Earth's gravity pulls you back down to Earth, you're going to fly past, essentially past Earth as it pulls you down. So it's not going to pull you all the way to the ground. It's going to pull you down and miss it, and now you're on the other side of the Earth, and it's still pulling you down, and so you just keep going around and around and around. But anyways, that's essentially that's the 10-second version of orbital mechanics. But yeah, so essentially it's going to go up, but it's got to go sideways to get into orbit. So that was from Kai Long on Periscope asking that question. So I suppose we could turn this back up now.
And standing by for engine cutoff in approximately 10 seconds.
So we should have first stage cutoff here any second. Yeah.
Now passing 11 minutes into flight. And we have SECO. Second stage engine cutoff.
Did I say first stage?
Body rates damping out well after the transients from the shutdown event.
So there you heard the United Launch Alliance launch commentator, Patrick Moore, taking you through the first 11 minutes. As you said, Mick, a lot of work, still a lot to go.
Absolutely, Joshua. You know, the team has done a fantabulous job to get here today. I can't even speak. It's I'm just
that's how exciting it is.
Yeah, I'm emotional here and exciting, but there is still a lot to go to be done to get us to spacecraft separation. As we just heard, we had SECO 1, second stage engine cutoff number 1. We're entering a long coast now, and then we'll get ready for second stage start for about 6 seconds to put ICESat on its final trajectory.
Yeah, in the meantime, we're going to send it back over to Stephanie to unpack more of the science and the research that we're doing as part of the ICESat-2 mission. Stephanie, back to you.
Thank you both. ICESat-2 is the next.
All right, so I'm gonna mute this here while they're talking about the actual satellite here, because I want to go back and I want to watch that launch one more time here, just because of how quickly it jumped off the pad. So to give you a little bit of an update as far as where we are in the launch here, so we are in the we're in the first coast phase. So we had successful launch, first stage cutoff and separation. That first stage is going to be expended. Then second stage, we had successful ignition and successful cutoff. We're going to coast phase, then we're going to get another ignition coming up. But that first restart is not going to happen until 47 minutes into flight. So we still got about 35 minutes until that happens. We got a long time here.
The surface of the Earth is.
Here, let's listen to this for
by
a minute,
measuring
we'll
the height of the ice sheet at the same place through time, you can measure whether it's growing and getting closer to the spacecraft, or is it getting smaller. And what we found with the first ICESat was that Greenland is changing quite a lot, particularly in the edges of the glacier, that it's losing a lot of mass there, where the ice sheet's getting smaller, and that water's being lost to the ocean, and causing sea level rise.
Now, we look at ICESat, it's done a great job, the mission's over, and now we have ICESat-2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happened between ICESat and ICESat-2? I understand there was a bridge. You had to keep on taking measurements between the ICESat and ICESat-2?
That's right. After the first ICESat mission ended in 2009, we knew we had to keep monitoring how the cryosphere was changing for ice sheets and for sea ice. And ICESat-2 is on the horizon, but was quite a ways away at that point. So what NASA decided to do was to use an aircraft mission, which they called Operation Icebridge, to continue to monitor those places that were changing rapidly. They use the P-3 aircraft as well as the DC-8. They do about a month-long campaign or 2-month-long campaign each spring in the Arctic, and a similar length campaign to monitor places in Antarctica. With an airplane, you can fly many instruments. So they use a laser altimeter, similar to what we use in space, as well as radars and cameras to measure those places in the cryosphere that are changing rapidly.
Any ground instruments that you use to measure the elevations?
You know, places like Greenland and Antarctica are huge. You can't really credibly cover much of that on the ground. They're simply too big. But an actual question is, how do you know that the measurements from the aircraft or from the spacecraft are correct? So what we've done is go to Antarctica, near the South Pole, where all of the ground tracks from ICESat-2 converge. ICESat-2 will be on orbit. It goes up to 88 degrees north and 88 degrees south around the Earth. So we went to 88 degrees south, and we took some high-precision GPS instrumentation to make a detailed survey of about 300 kilometers of the ice sheet. Now, that survey is going to be one of our main reference data sets. So when ICESat-2 passes overhead and gives us some data from that area, we can compare the two and see how we're doing. Similarly, Icebridge, the aircraft campaign, flies over that same stretch of Antarctica, so we can compare the ground-based to the airborne to the spacecraft.
Now, I understand ICESat-2 is a much better satellite and a much better instrument on board. Tell me the difference between ICESat-2 and the original ICESat mission.
You know, with the original ICESat, we had never done that before, have a laser in space to measure changes in ice sheets, and we learned a ton. We learned that the main action is around the edges of the ice sheets, but as importantly, we also learned that we could monitor sea ice with that. And by measuring the height of sea ice and comparing it with the height of the ocean that you can see in these cracks in the sea ice, you can figure out how thick that sea ice is, how much is sticking up out of the ocean. And we didn't even know we could do that with the first ICESat before it launched. So for ICESat-2, we used those lessons, and ICESat-2 will do a much better job of measuring changing glaciers around the edges where it's rough and it's steep, as well as measuring sea ice freeboard as that way to get at the thickness of the sea ice.
In addition to the cryosphere, I understand ICESat-2 is going to be taking elevations of a number of areas around the globe. What are some other things ICESat-2 can do?
So from the vantage point of space, you really see the whole planet. Although ICESat-2 is really designed to measure changes in the cryosphere, the ice sheets and sea ice, From the vantage point of space, you see forests. We'll measure the height of oceans, height of deserts, all over the whole planet. We have data products that cover each of those different types of surfaces. We have vegetation data products, ocean height, ice sheet height, sea ice, etc. The cryosphere is our primary objective, so the other targets are secondary, but we think they're going to be really useful for those communities.
So is it fair to say that with ICESat and IceBridge and ICESat-2, will you be able to predict down the road, I mean, just how much the poles and how much ice is melting and how much of the ocean levels are increasing over time?
Absolutely. So with ICESat-1 and now with ICESat-2, we'll be able to measure those changes in ice sheets and measure how much mass is being gained or lost in different places and how that's affecting sea level. But you bring up a good point that our data will allow ice sheet modelers to make better predictions of the future. And the way they do that is by comparing their model prediction for right now with our data. So if a model is predicting that a glacier is changing this fast or that fast, they can compare their prediction with our data to see how the model is doing. And by calibrating their models with data, it gives us more confidence in their predictions going forward when they're predicting out 100 years or 200 years. If you're getting the modern changes right, it gives you confidence looking ahead.
We are about 17 minutes into the flight of the
kind of just ended abruptly. So, all right, so let's go. We're gonna do a giveaway here shortly as well on the YouTube channel. So if you're following along, make sure you head over to youtube.com/OLHZN, and we will we'll also or you gotta go to the YouTube channel. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. You gotta go to the YouTube channel if you want to join the giveaway, which we'll do in just a minute. Because all you gotta do to enter for the giveaway is go to the YouTube channel, go to this particular YouTube live video, and enter in a comment. It can be anything as long as it's appropriate and you're not going crazy. But just gotta throw in a comment, say hi or something. It doesn't matter what in the YouTube channel. On the YouTube video for this, and you'll be entered to win. And speaking of which, I gotta pull up my my Nightbot. And Nightbot is going to be our Nightbot's in control of the giveaway, and we'll decide who the winner is going to be for what are we going to win? It's the Parker Solar Probe beach ball here with a Delta IV Heavy on the side. Says Delta IV Heavy Parker Solar Probe, and also has a little Parker Solar Probe here. This is supposed to be the sun with the Parker Solar Probe flying in front of the sun. And then there's somewhere on here, there's a United Launch Alliance logo. There it is, United Launch Alliance logo. Hey, courtesy to them, they sent these over to us, donated them to our nonprofit. So thanks very much to United Launch Alliance and Tori Bruno for sending over some beach balls to us. So there we go. We're gonna give one of these guys away, as well as we'll probably give away a couple sticker or two while we're waiting here. But before we get to the giveaway, so I'll give people a chance to head over to the YouTube channel. If you're watching on Facebook or on Periscope or on Twitch, any of those channels, because we're live on all of them. We got like 5 live streams here happening all at the same time. So a bunch of live streams happening. But if you are watching on any of the other ones that are not YouTube, head over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/OLHZN. Stands for Overlook Horizon. youtube.com/OLHZN. And that's where you can enter to win the Parker Solar Probe beach ball. So with that being said, let's go back. Well, now they're showing some footage of the United Launch Alliance building there, but let's go back and see if we can't find the launch here, because I just want to watch that one more time, and then we'll switch back and we'll see. 8, 7, 6. We're going in a hurry here, so here's about 30 seconds before launch. And I want to listen into this again one more time, and I just want to watch how fast it jumps off the pad, because it seemed like it went off in a hurry. So this is a replay here now. I probably should put up something that says like this is a replay. But yeah, this is a replay, and we're just going to watch this, and we'll see how quick it comes off.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff of the final Delta II. Launching nearly 3 decades of science research and exploration missions, lifting ICESat-2 on a quest to to explore the polar ice sheets of our constantly changing home planet.
Let's do that again. See, now I got
27 seconds into flight.
Sounds like a lot of time and no time at all.
It moves pretty quickly. Once the vehicle lifts off the pad and gets on its way through ascent, you know.
1.
Again.
Liftoff of the final Delta II, launching nearly 3 decades of science research and exploration missions, lifting ICESat-2 on a quest to explore the polar ice sheets of our constantly changing home planet.
Just so fast off the pad. How fast it clears that tower is crazy to me. It's pretty impressive. And even just the sound, I love the sound of a rocket launch is
27 seconds into flight. 30 seconds in, Mach 1, Delta 2 is now supersonic.
So there's a replay here now. This already happened.
It's
happened about 20 minutes ago.
On the RS-27, both linear engines as well. Seeing consistent fuel and oxidizer injector pressures as well. And at T plus 46 seconds, max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. And at 57 seconds in, we have web burnout on the solid rocket motors, seeing good responses. And we have burnout on all 4 motors. And Delta will hold on to those motors for an additional 20 seconds prior to jettison.
I did find that kind of interesting that that the solid rocket motors burned out, and
now
then
1 minute 20
they
seconds
just held on to them
by
for a while.
motor jettison. And we have good indication of jettison of all 4 solid rocket motors.
The jettison was pretty cool too. Watching
now
that.
1 minute 30 seconds into flight. Continuing to see good chamber pressure on the RS-27, good chamber pressures on both veneer engines as well. Seeing stable pressures on the fuel and oxidizer injector pressures. Vehicle body rates looking stable.
All right, so we're going to start the giveaway comment collecting here.
Now 1 minute 55 seconds into flight.
Nightbot is going to actually collect my comments. It says nobody. It says I have 0 eligible winners here. So somebody comment on the YouTube channel. Let me make sure that Nightbot is actually working here. Oh, there we go.
And 2 minutes,
Stubby,
10 seconds.
Stubby commented. Right now he's the only one that is eligible for the giveaway. All right. Well, so we'll switch this back over.
And the booster bi-level charge is fired to maintain necessary ullage pressure in the booster.
We're gonna mute this and we'll go back to where it is live here so that we have this playing in the background. But I'm going to start the giveaway process here now. So I'm pretty sure that that my YouTube or my Nightbot is working right now, because as of right now it says that only Stubby is eligible. So make sure you get your comments in so that you can be eligible for the giveaway. There we go. I got a couple more people that are eligible here now. Joy and Jay Fuller eligible. So we're going to give away a couple things. The first thing that we'll give away is the big one, and that's the Parker Solar Probe beach ball, because these are pretty neat. It will come deflated. I'm not going to mail it to you like this. It'll come deflated, and then we'll give away a sticker here too. But there we go. We got. So what you got to do to enter, if you're watching on Periscope or Twitch or on Facebook, you got to head over to the YouTube channel. So only, here's yeah. Well, let me finish my thought, and then I go to this interesting comment. But only on the YouTube channel can you be eligible to win the Parker Solar Probe beach ball. So you got to go to youtube.com/OLHZN, join our live video, and throw in a comment. It can really be anything. You just say hi, whatever it is. You just throw in some sort of comment, and that will enter you and make you eligible to win the Parker Solar Probe beach ball. So we're getting some comments here coming in. So I see some eligible people that can win themselves a Parker Solar Probe beach ball. We'll give it a second for those comments to come in so that people can be eligible. You know, we do usually get a couple of people commented earlier. The viewership on some of the United Launch Alliance videos is a little bit on the lower side, which is a shame. United Launch Alliance does some pretty cool stuff, but they don't I don't know. It seems that you know, the SpaceX broadcasts definitely get a lot more people watching. Presumably, I'm thinking, you know, the SpaceX, they land the boosters, they're trying to recover the fairing. They do a lot of social media stuff and photos and things like that. You know, United Launch Alliance, they do some great stuff, and they're. But I just don't. I'm not sure why not as many people seem to be interested in the United Launch Alliance stuff. But I like it. I still like it as well. Especially the last Delta II rocket, and that was it, right there. That's the last time you're going to see a Delta II lift off. That unique teal color rocket there. Last one. It's been going since 1989. So originally the Delta II was built to launch GPS satellites for the military. I think it's for the Air Force. You know, originally when the space shuttle came out, the space shuttle was going to be the vehicle that was going to take all our satellites into orbit and do all our work. It was the space shuttle was going to be the workhorse of the United States, bringing people, satellites, whatever we needed into space. The space shuttle was going to do it. But then after the Challenger disaster, or tragedy, disaster, whatever you want to call it, in 1986, then I think President Reagan said, okay, if the mission is just strictly for launching a satellite and we don't really need people to be out there, then let's just launch it on a rocket that doesn't have people on it. And so the Delta II was one of those very first platforms that came out to, or maybe the very first platform that was there to launch GPS satellites for the Air Force. Didn't need humans to go with it, and so that was kind of the first post space shuttle rocket to come out to launch satellites for the government. And it started in 1989, and this is 155, or is it 156, somewhere in there? I know it's 150 something. Yeah, this is the 155th flight overall since 1989. So yeah, it's been going on for a long time, and if all goes well, which so far seems good, we still got a little ways to go, but if all goes well, this will be the 100th consecutive successful Delta II flight. They did have a couple anomalies back in the 90s, 2 of them, I believe, where they lost a vehicle, but those were a while ago. We've had 100 consecutive ones here now. So, all right, so everybody's probably anxious for the giveaway here. I think we got a couple of people that came in, and I think we're ready to give away a beach ball. All right, so let's do it. Let's give away the beach ball. Let's let Nightbot, this is your last opportunity to get your comments in, and because I'm going to push the roll it button here now in just a second. The little roll it button is Nightbot deciding who to give it to. This is your last opportunity. Get some comments in and just say hi on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/OLHZN, and that'll get you entered to win the Parker Solar Probe beach ball. And then we'll mail this out to you, and you can do whatever you want with it. We're going to try, somebody also asked, did we launch the weather balloon yesterday? We were going to try to launch one of our balloons yesterday with a Parker Solar Probe beach ball on it, but we did not. The winds, as it got closer to yesterday, the winds turned out to not be as favorable as they originally looked to be. And actually, it was a 3-day span. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow were all supposed to be decent wind possibilities, but all of them turned out to be not quite as good. Nothing crazy where we couldn't launch. It's just not as ideal. And if we're going to do something special like launch a beach ball, we want to make sure that we can get it back, and we try to find a really super ideal landing spot, which just wasn't going to happen with a launch yesterday or this week. So we'll have to see. It's probably, if we do, officially we don't have any more scheduled launches, but if we do another one, it may be a while. So, all right, so here we go. I'm pushing a button here now. Let's give away the Parker Solar Probe beach ball. Here we go. We're going to roll it. And there it is. The winner of the Parker Solar Probe Beach Ball is Joy Mode, who has won the giveaway. So congratulations to Joy. This Parker Solar Probe Beach Ball, well, actually not this one. I have some that are not inflated, so I will say they're exactly the same. But you've won yourself a Parker Solar Probe Beach Ball. So if you want to claim your Parker Solar Probe Beach Ball, what you got to do is you got to send me a direct message and tell me where you want me to send it to. So either on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, or just go to overlookhorizon.com/contact us, and you can send us an email. But either way, you got to tell me where you want me to send the beach ball to. So send me a direct message some way so that I know where to send your beach ball to, and it will go out in the mail, and you get yourself a Parker Solar Probe beach ball. So there you go. Congratulations to Joy. Parker Solar Probe beach ball coming your way. Just make sure you send me that direct message on one of our social media profiles so that I know where to send it to, because otherwise I don't know where to send it. All right, so the other thing we're going to give away, let's see, I got all this stuff here in front of me. We're trying to make a game time decision on what we're going to give away. But I think we're going to do, we'll do 2 more giveaways here, because we don't have too many people hanging out here on the YouTube channel. So your chances of winning are pretty high, but we'll give away 2 stickers here, and then we'll call it a day for the giveaways at least. So first one, probably got to switch to the full camera here so you can actually see it. The first one is a Space Lobster, the secondary mission patch here for the Space Lobster. So we've got the, if you go over to Twitter, actually, we're running a giveaway contest for this mission patch sticker right now. All you got to do, there's a pinned tweet at the top of our Twitter profile, twitter.com/OLHCN. If you want to win one of these guys, all you got to do is retweet that post and follow Overlook Horizon on Twitter. And we're also going to pick a random giveaway to win one of these stickers on Twitter. So this one is going to be on Twitter as part of our Twitter giveaway. But I'm going to give away one of these, which is kind of our secondary mission patch sticker here. So if you want to win one of these, we're going to do this via the YouTube comments, and we will we'll give one of these guys away here. Let's see, where's my Nightbot? Nightbot. There it is, Nightbot. All right. Okay, so Nightbot is going to choose a giveaway winner for the Space Lobster sticker here. All right. Let's see. Where's my button? Okay, here we go. We'll roll it one more time for the secondary Space Lobster sticker giveaway. There it is. Peter. Peter's the winner of our secondary Space Lobster sticker giveaway. So this is, yeah, as Alex Ziggyful mentions, this sticker here is the actual Space Lobster here on the sticker, and Peter's the winner of that. But this one's kind of a Alex Ziggyful's the one that created these here for us. But here's the, this was the, I don't know, we call this the primary mission patch logo. This is kind of a, this is a drawn lobster. But the one that Peter won is this one right here. This is the actual Space Lobster, the one that actually flew up there. That is a picture that Alex Ziggyful took and created a sticker out, or a logo out of it here for us. So he basically cut that out of the picture there and laid it on top of that graphic there for us. So thanks very much for that. But there you go, Peter, you're getting yourself a Space Lobster sticker. So again, to win it, you got to send me a direct message on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I don't think YouTube does direct messages anymore. You can also go to overlookhorizon.com/contact us and use the contact us email form and just let me know where you want it sent to, and we'll send it out. I get it, it's still early in the day. I'll get it in the mail today here for you. All right, and last one, one more here, and we will give away, this one is an Overlook Horizon sticker. Actually, well, we got two. It'll come like this, but it'll look like this when it's a sticker, when you actually take the sticker off of there. So, so there we go. One more to give away here, and this is our official Overlook Horizon sticker here, and we'll give one of these guys away here. I gotta reset Nightbot. Where do I keep losing my Nightbot here? The Ice Griffin says YouTube has direct messages if you have it on. I think YouTube actually discontinued. I got an email from YouTube a long time ago, or a couple months ago, that said they were discontinuing their direct messaging service. I don't know if they've done that yet, but they did. They said they were discontinuing their messaging service. It definitely used to have YouTube direct messaging, but I don't know if they do anymore, because they sent out an email that said they were discontinuing it. So if YouTube still has direct messaging, then you can send me a YouTube direct message too. But I don't think they do anymore. But anyway, so here we go. We'll give away the sticker, and then somebody says, "What about the rocket?" Yeah, we're going to go back to the rocket here in just a minute there, Giannis, and we got some time. We're in a coast phase here now, so we're waiting on this coast phase, which was supposed to last. Let's see, where are we? We're 37, almost 38 minutes into flight. So the coast phase is going to last until about 47 minutes. So we got some time. That's why we're doing some of these giveaways. We get some time until the coast phase is over, and then we'll watch that and the and spacecraft separation. And then Abdul on Twitch said that I missed the launch. You did miss the launch, Abdul. Sorry, unfortunately. Maybe after we do the giveaway, we can watch the launch one more time. But there we go. Alex Sigiful says, Tori, do you have to leave a comment every time you do a new Nightbot pick? No, you do not need to leave a comment every time I do a new Nightbot pick. So it keeps all the commenters from previous, from whenever I said I started the commenting or the YouTube giveaway. It keeps all of them. I think it keeps it back for like 15 minutes. So basically, any comments for the last 15 minutes, it will keep. So I could push the reset eligibility button, but I don't do that. Whoa. Yeah, I don't reset the eligibility. I just keep all the commenters in there. So okay. So there we go. Last thing to give away. Then we'll switch back. We'll see how the rocket's doing. You can see it up on the broadcast there over my shoulder. We'll listen in, see if they got any more news for us, but we're still waiting on that. So, all right. So let's give this away. Where'd my Nightbot go? Nightbot. All right. Here we go. Giving away. Yep, an Overlook Horizon sticker here, and roll it. Hey, Sandy. Sandy's the winner of our Overlook Horizon sticker. And I know. Well, I know how to message Sandy because we're friends. I've personally met Sandy down at the NASA Social. So Sandy, I'll send you a message about the Overlook Horizon sticker win. How's that? But there you go. There's our winner. Our three winners here today for our giveaways here on the YouTube channel. But there we go. That's what we got to give away. So make sure, who was it? We got Joy and let's see. Joy, who was the second winner? Oh, Peter. Yeah, I couldn't think of who the second winner was. Joy, Peter, and Sandy. Those are our three winners, and we'll give some more giveaways. We got more stuff coming up. Should we do a giveaway? Let's do a little informal poll. We got the next live broadcast we're gonna do is for this big SpaceX announcement on Monday night. So Monday night, SpaceX is gonna do. They're gonna announce who they are sending on their BFR moon mission. When that's gonna happen, I have no idea. But this BFR moon mission that they have coming up for SpaceX, on Monday, they're going to announce who the paying customers are that are going to go on that moon mission. So join us Monday. It's I'm going to be live Monday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time. What's that? 0:30 UTC, right? Something like that. But I'm going to be live on Monday, so that and we'll probably do some more giveaways then as well, because I like these. This is fun. I like giving free stuff away, as long as. But that's if anybody's feeling generous, the way that we can do that and that we give away all this fun stuff is through all the donations that we collect, since we're a 501c3 nonprofit. So if you feel like donating, it's overlookhorizon.com/donate, and I think there's some links in the YouTube description as well. But we're an official 501c3 charitable organization, a nonprofit charity in the United States, and any donations that you make to us are tax deductible, and that's how we give away all the stickers and things like that. And if you just don't want to wait for a giveaway, you can actually just go on overlookhorizon.com/shop and you can buy a sticker too. We sell them there as well. So there's my sales pitch for you. So let's see. Alex Ziggiful says Peter and Sandy sounds like a folk group. That's pretty funny. We're gonna start up a band. All right, we were talking. What were we gonna do? We were gonna do something, but I guess we can switch back over here and. So there's our giveaways. We're done with that. We'll set that off to the side. Don't forget to send me a direct message. What else? I feel like I was going to do something else, but now I forgot. I don't remember. But we can listen in. Let's unmute this and see what they have to say. I don't know how loud this is going to be. It might blow your eardrums out here.
Show. Stay tuned later in the show. Not only do we have, here in about 4 minutes or so, we have the second burn of the second stage to get ready for spacecraft separation. On screen there, you see an animation of the second stage and the spacecraft there, still on their way. I believe that spacecraft has now, we launched going nearly due south. We have, I believe we've already passed over Antarctica, and we're now coming up towards Africa. So pretty interesting to think about the orbital path of this.
Yeah, we're hoping that, or we should be seeing when we get up to this T+47 minute, starting up the second stage engine and then heading over Madagascar for separation.
Yeah, so can you talk about why we have multiple second stage burns? That was one of my, again, being new to the family, you got to ask these kinds of questions, learning about orbital mechanics and things. Why have multiple burns of the second stage? Why not just fire one single burn and get where you're going?
Yeah, so tonight's mission was a 2-burn mission for the primary spacecraft ICESat-2. The first burn got us into that initial orbit of a circular/polar orbit for us, right? This 7-second burn coming up is going to be that last little burn that gives us the velocity and boost to get ICESat on its way, making some slight inclination adjustments to that 92-degree inclination.
The second stage engine will ignite to start the
second burn. We're listening now to an update that's coming in.
The second burn will
I believe that's Patrick Moore's voice. He's giving us an update. We're about 3 minutes away from that second stage burn. So we're just trying to make sure we're staying up to speed on the updates coming through.
Yeah, so that second stage burn will provide that last little bit to get ICESat to where it's go. And then, of course, as you talked about earlier, we'll have 2 more burns. One to get into an inclination change to deploy our secondary payloads, our CubeSats. And then once those deploy, we will do a 4th burn over the Pacific Ocean, South Pacific area, to bring the second stage back in for disposal, so we don't leave anything out there floating. You know, all those are concerned about space junk. We want to bring that back so it's not there.
Absolutely, yeah. So again, interesting path flying due south with some minor adjustments with the second stage burns. We're taking a path. I think Stephanie mentioned this earlier, where we're going to cross over the same piece of land with our spacecraft ICESat-2, the exact same piece of land every 91 days, which requires a very precise orbit.
Yes, and Delta II will provide that. I have total faith in this vehicle and what it's done over the years, and we will put the spacecraft where they need to be able to perform that science. And I think it's just amazing that we can see every part of the Earth in that short period of time. and take measurements down to the millimeter level of our ice caps. And that's just, you know, we enjoy the rockets, but the science behind it is also exciting. And those guys that work the science missions on the spacecraft spend a lot of years of their lives putting this together and doing it. And it's just amazing to be part of that group to get these things going and this history that we're putting together for Mother Earth.
Yeah, so the orbital path
under
today
a minute
will take
here
us
now.
over
Somewhere around a minute.
the eastern part of Africa. We deploy our spacecraft near Madagascar, and then we'll travel over the eastern part of Europe, and then we'll travel up and over Earth. And actually, the end of this cycle will travel just to the west of where we are here. So again, the orbit jogs X number of miles to the west every orbit. And so eventually, 91 days later, it will pass over this specific spot again.
Yeah, we're basically flying north to south pole, right? And we're taking advantage of the Earth turning. And so as that does that, we stay in that polar orbit, and Earth turns, and so we get that full coverage of the Earth every 91 days. I think that's amazing. We're about 40 seconds away, I think, from second stage start, and we'll be listening to ULA's commentator Patrick Moore bring us through this as we get ready for this final burn.
Yeah, so Stubby was asking on YouTube. There's 4 burns.
Hydraulic system pressure is now coming up.
We did one. We're doing 2 now.
Ignition.
It's only like a 7-second burn here that they're going to do.
Again, you're watching an animation on your screen of the second stage in spacecraft.
Then after the second one, they'll shut down. They'll deploy the spacecraft. We'll do a 3rd burn and deploy.
And we have ignition on the second stage. Chamber pressure looks good, and standing by for cutoff.
There we go. It's a quick one.
And we have engine cutoff.
That's it.
Awesome. So good calls there.
Hydraulic pressure now coming back down.
A startup and a cutoff. Obviously, the animation there, you see that as well. Again, just a great picture to kind of resemble what's going on up in space. Thankful to have those animations to help you get a chance to really kind of experience what's going on up there. Mick, we've talked about this orbit around Earth, but there's a lot that goes in beyond the teams that are here on the ground for launch, which are still actively working to make sure that this is a success. There's a lot of teams.
All right, I'm going to turn these guys here down just for a minute here. So I'll put my earpiece back there so it doesn't blare in the microphone. But so yeah, we've had that second burn here now and cut off. It was only like a 7-second burn, I think, from startup to shutdown, or maybe it was 10 seconds. But anyways, very quick burn. That second stage, second burn, very quick. That's the one that actually puts the spacecraft into its final parking orbits. This is a low Earth orbit that it's going into, polar orbit that it's going into here. So it's going to be orbiting over the north and south poles. And then, as he mentioned in the broadcast, basically every time it orbits, the Earth is going to be rotating underneath it while it's orbiting over the poles, which is intentional. So every time it goes around an orbit, the Earth rotates a little bit, and then it's a couple miles to the west of where it was last time, and then it orbits again, and it's a couple more miles to the west, and then it just keeps going around and around and around and around. I mean, the spacecraft just does this over the poles, but the Earth spins underneath it. But anyway, so in about 91 days, it will be back to where it started, and will orbit over the top of the launch site again, about 91 days from now. So that's basically the time that it takes to go. It'll rotate orbit many times during that time frame, but that's how long it will take to get back to that longitudinal spot, right? Is that right? That sounds about right. Sure, why not? Anyway, so at 91 days, it'll fly over the launch site again. And so now what we're waiting for is spacecraft separation. So this is for the actual ICESat-2 satellite that will start its mission. It's basically using this the laser system, it's LiDAR, that it's using to make these measurements of I mean, there's a couple of objectives. I think there's 4 main objectives, but the first 3 have to do with ice, trying to figure out what the ice mass is at our poles and things like that. And then the 4th one is they're actually measuring vegetation as well. Yeah, so we got a couple minutes here. So that's the spacecraft right there, waiting on separation here now. I thought maybe they were getting into it now, but I think we still have another minute or so. But I'll turn the volume up in just a second.
Tonight, this is what it's all about right here, is the spacecraft and getting them on orbit
and talk at the same
to start performing their science. So this is really nice to be able to see the ICESat-2 spacecraft on the front of the second stage as it's in space, getting ready for final separation here in about a minute and 20 seconds.
Now approaching.
Yeah, and again, just to preview some of the other parts of the countdown, or part of the launch sequence that will be coming up with the flight, we'll see spacecraft separation. A little bit later, we'll have the solar arrays deploying, and we'll also have a third burn of the second stage to get us in position to deploy the CubeSats, which is a big part. And then after that point, we're hearing we're going to get spacecraft health report, and that's when we're hoping to really kind of declare victory over the entire flight today.
Yeah, absolutely. Spacecraft separation is just another milestone. The teams will still be focused, waiting to hear the initial state of the spacecraft and make sure everything's good. So I think the teams are looking like they're all standing up and getting a little excited here. I think everybody's on edge, still focused on what's going on. But we're getting closer and closer here to spacecraft separation, and glad to see that we still have live video.
Yeah, we're about 20 seconds out now, here, so we'll kind of just stand by and watch and listen.
Yeah, and I see Gregorius's comments on the YouTube channel. I want to get back to that as far as the
and standing by for spacecraft SEP shortly.
And the lasers. Those are two things I want to get back to. Don't let me forget that. We're just waiting for separation here now. Should be any second. Oh, there it is.
And we have good indication of separation of the ICESat-2 spacecraft.
Awesome. That is great. That's what we want to see. That motion there you see on your screen is the spacecraft drifting away from the second stage. So that looks good. Obviously, we'll get full reports later, but definitely like a lot of people breathing another sigh of relief. There's several of those that happened today.
It's just another milestone. We still have a little bit more to go. And like we said, verify that solar panels are out and get that state of health. As you had mentioned earlier, they want to get into the
congratulating each other
24-hour light and be ready to go. So we're waiting to see that. We see the teams at the Remote Launch Control Center, NASA's launch manager Tim Dunn.
So all right, I'm going to turn this back down here again while he's chatting. So they're going to basically at this point the spacecraft has got to get its solar panels out. They got to verify that to make sure everything's good with the spacecraft. But from ULA's standpoint, this completes their primary mission. Now, there's still more that ULA is going to do. I don't know if there's... I think they're going to show it. If they show it, I'll stick around. We'll continue to stay live for it. If they end it and they cut it off and they don't show the CubeSats, which is coming up next, then I guess I'll end it if they're not going to show it anymore. But I suspect that they will show it, so we'll stick around because the CubeSats shouldn't be much further off. So CubeSat deployment is supposed to be an hour and 16 minutes after launch. So that's another 20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes here from now before we get CubeSat deployment. So we can fill some time here again, right? It's all right. Yeah, so what I did start talking about is with the second stage. So we've had 2 burns here. There's actually going to be 4 burns. And Gregorius pretty much hit the nail on the head here on the YouTube channel. He said so the first stage burn was to actually get it to the apogee that they wanted it to get to, which is the maximum altitude it was going to hit. The second burn, this is Tori Bruno here. Let's hear what he has to say here.
Doesn't mean we have to say goodbye. I'm excited to announce that the final Delta II rocket will soon take its place in the lineup of historic rockets located in the Rocket Garden at NASA's Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex in Florida. The Delta II rocket has been a venerable rocket for NASA and civilian scientists, the U.S. military, and commercial customers throughout its almost 30 years of service. This program comes to a close with the final launch of NASA's ICESat-2, but its legacy will continue, and the Visitors Complex will help us keep the story of success of this much revered rocket in the hearts and minds of the public. The maiden Delta II took flight on Valentine's Day in 1989. successfully delivering the first operational GPS satellite into space. Since that first launch, Delta II rockets have launched 154 successful missions. Its resume includes several trips to Mars, as well as the planet-hunting Kepler, the twin lunar orbiting Grail spacecraft, 48 GPS satellites, and numerous commercial imaging and communication satellites. These tremendous achievements are a tribute to the dedicated team at ULA and our supplier partners that ensure mission success each and every launch. So, the next time you are in Florida, stop by the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex and take a selfie with the Delta II and make sure and tag @ULA launch.
There you go. That's pretty neat. They're going to actually move the Delta II, the last Delta II. So they have listen to this
don't know either that you and Tim Dunn were a part in helping to really champion that effort.
Well, I tell you, Tim and I are very excited about that. We've been pushing for something like that for quite a while, to be able to share Delta II heritage with the public. Put it at Kennedy Space Center next to the sister Thor that's out there in the rocket garden. Man, that announcement just that made my night tonight, just to hear that we were going to be able to show off this.
That's pretty exciting to see that they're going to have the Delta II on display in the rocket garden. And now I got another reason to head back down to Kennedy Space Center once they get the Delta II out there, so that I can get myself a selfie with the Delta II rocket. So that'll be pretty sweet. So I'm glad to hear that. I knew they had another Delta II rocket that was unflown, but and that they were planning on displaying it, but they hadn't announced where they were going to display it. But now we know, Kennedy Space Center in the rocket garden. So that's pretty exciting. So I started talking about, while we're waiting for the CubeSats here, there were 4 burns on the second stage. I feel like I've said this like 4 times here now because I haven't gotten the complete thought out. But 4 burns on the second stage today. First one got its apogee set up, which is the highest point. Second one put it into a circular orbit, so it circularized the orbit. So generally speaking, you usually fire at apogee to circularize it. You can actually do some more advanced stuff than just waiting to apogee. And I'm sure they're much more efficient than that. But me and my Kerbal Space Program expertise knows that you can go to apogee and fire, and it'll circularize the orbit. The third one here is a course correction to get the CubeSats into the orbit that they need to be in. So this is going to be a course correction orbit here, or course correction burn, that's going to happen at let's see, 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 53 seconds, and we are currently at about 59 minutes. So we got we got like 12 minutes-ish until they do that third burn. And then after the third burn, which is another pretty quick burn, that's only 8 seconds, so quick course correction. That's pretty normal for once you get, once you're in orbit, it doesn't really take much to shift your orbit around. So you don't need huge amounts of delta V or velocity change to move your orbit around once you get into space here and into orbit. But yeah, so about an 8-second burn happening in about 11 minutes here now. And then right after that is going to be CubeSat deployment, which is going to start at 1 hour and 16 minutes after launch here. So that's still another little over 15 minutes away until we get to that point here. So, and then we'll probably wrap it up right after that. So this has been a long one here today, and it's a long mission timeline. We also had a 15-minute delay up front that took a little bit of time. To get through as they were working the temperature issue on those the second stage helium bottles. But we're working through it. But do make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel or following us on Periscope, because we will have another broadcast come Monday night to listen in on the SpaceX announcement for who's gonna fly to the moon for SpaceX on the BFR rocket, the big Falcon rocket or the big effing rocket, depending on what your interpretation is. But that's they're planning on, they're making an announcement on Monday night for the BFR rocket, and they have two passengers that have essentially paid to go around the moon. But the big question, some of the big questioning is going to be like, how, I know the passengers have paid for it, but how exactly are they funding this? Just because are the passengers really funding 100% of that? I mean, some people are estimating that the cost to do a mission like that might be somewhere in the range of like $5 billion. But, you know, do you really have two passengers that paid $2.5 billion a piece to fly to the moon? That seems unlikely. So the question, you know, how are they funding this? Are they using funds from some of the NASA missions, the commercial resupply missions or the cargo resupply missions, to fund that? Because certainly NASA pays SpaceX and United Launch Alliance. They pay for not just the cost of the launch, but there's a cost built in for the research portion of the launch, which is not directly a cost of the actual launch itself, but an overall cost that it takes to build these rockets and get them going. So NASA does pay for a lot of that research, but there's a lot of big questions in terms of what's gonna, how that's happening funding wise, and who's paying for it. So hopefully we'll find all that stuff out on Monday night when that announcement happens. And so what's the other thing I was going to say? There were two things. Oh, the other one was the lasers that are on the ICESat that we just saw deployed. So the lasers on ICESat, the LiDAR, which is basically, that's how they're going to be measuring the ice on the surface, and also some vegetation as well on the planets. But using lasers, there's 6 lasers on board. They're grouped in 2 groups of 3, and they're these basically these high-powered lasers that will that are providing radar, just like you get police radar or anything like that. They're bouncing it off the surface and figuring out how long it takes to get back, and they can measure the thickness there and the change in thickness over time and all kinds of stuff like that. So so I did want to mention on those lasers, and they always show them, they're green lasers. It's not like you're going to be able to see that from the ground, but they are green lasers, and so whenever you see a lot of the graphics, you see some of those green lasers being shown out there. And those lasers are also the original ICESat, which was decommissioned back in 2010. The original ICESat, if it would fly over a football field, would only take 2 measurements, 1 in each end zone, basically. So that was kind of the precision that the original ICESat had. It was over a very long distance, and it's flying very fast, and so it could only take so many measurements. It would take over the course of a football field, it would take 1 measurement in one end zone, 1 measurement in the other end zone. The new ICESat actually takes 1 measurement every 70 centimeters. So I forget how many measurements that equates to over the course of a football field, but it's a lot more. You get a lot more measurements there. So this is a much higher precision satellite, and hopefully will give much better results for finding out what's happening with our polar ice caps, and how our climate may be changing, and what's happening to the ice mass, how quickly are we losing ice, all that kind of stuff, what's happening with sea levels and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully it give us a much better grasp on what's happening, what's happening with our climate here. So there you go. Gregorius giving us, it says 1 foot is about 33 centimeters. So there's your conversion for us in the U.S. I normally always put it out in feet for us in the U.S. that use imperial measurements, but I just happen to know that the new ICESat does some in 70 centimeter, 1 measurement every 70 centimeters. So in a rare instance, I'm actually throwing out metric measurements here today. So yeah, as Gregorius says, it takes one measurement approximately every 2 feet, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. You've got this satellite that's orbiting, I haven't seen a speed on it, but potentially somewhere in the realm of 17,000 miles per hour, and it's able to precisely measure spots on the Earth in 2-foot increments as it flies over. So it's pretty incredible. So right now, let's see. On Periscope, the Ice Griffin says LiDAR for drones is still pretty pricey. Thankfully, FLIR is cheaper now by a bit. I am not familiar with this. What? Well, I mean, I suppose. I guess I could see where you would. Oh well, I guess LiDAR is our LiDAR we're using for our collision avoidance. I don't know. I never really looked into that. I don't own a drone at the moment, but that may change here very soon. I've been looking at. I may be getting myself a Mavic 2 here in the near future. I've flown a lot of drones, but I have not owned my own yet. So, but maybe getting a Mavic 2. I feel like it's time. But anyways, but yeah, I guess I never really looked into what they're using for collision avoidance and things like that. I guess I assumed it would be a LiDAR or something, but I guess I don't know. I never really looked into that. Anyways, so the Ice Griffin also said if it's every 90 days, that's about 4 degrees of change every day of orbit, but that can't be right. Well, I haven't worked out the measurements, but that's what. Well, and you also got to think it doesn't have to go all. That doesn't necessarily mean that it went all the way around the Earth, because really it just has to go halfway around. Because then by the time it gets halfway around the Earth, it's going to make the orbit around that same spot. So that 4 degrees of change could be right, but just make sure you're. I don't know how you did that math, and I probably can't do that on the fly here while I'm broadcasting, but just make sure you take into account that in order to fly back over the same spot, it doesn't have to go all the way 360 degrees around the Earth. It only really has to go 180 degrees around the Earth, because then it will fly back over the same spot again. So something to keep in mind if you're doing that measurement there. So there we go. Let's see. Oh, I got some messages here from our giveaway winners here coming in already. That's good. I guess we'll tune into here because we're coming up here pretty close on the next burn. Let's turn this up here.
Critical design reviews and get them through those milestones of systems engineering. And so that students get to learn that and become
Let's listen in here for a minute.
And then if they get a chance to launch one of these on a rocket, it's just an exciting time for them to see their project go from paper to launching something on orbit. And the other unique thing about CubeSats is they all have some kind of initiative that they're trying to accomplish while they're up there. And tonight, our 4 CubeSats that we have on board, Dave, dampening and vibrations experiment is just a unique thing where they're testing tungsten particles as part of a mass dampener. So they're actually performing science and doing something with their CubeSat, right? Elfin A and B, which are the electron loss and fields investigation CubeSats, they're studying constellations, looking at time domain changes. Again, doing some EMI, EMC work, right? And then SurfSat is looking at charged plasma on spacecraft materials. So they're using new materials and trying to learn different things. So these are great opportunities for kids and students to learn and provide initiatives for NASA.
Yeah, it's one thing to get to learn engineering by being hands-on. It's a whole other thing when your learning experience results in putting a functioning spacecraft into orbit to get to do some science research that way. It's pretty sensational.
Absolutely, Joshua. It's, again, trying to inspire that next generation to do what they want to do, and maybe one day even come work for NASA at Launch Services Program.
Hey, it sounds like a great way to spend a career.
Absolutely.
We are now getting word. We should be just about 30 seconds out from our third restart of our second stage. So we'll be bringing you that, and then we are going to pass it over to find out more about those CubeSats on board today. Again, really just a cool science.
Hydraulic system pressure is coming up as expected. Pressures look good. Standing by for ignition.
kind of amazing how small it gets. You know, you think this was this huge rocket that launched.
And we have ignition.
Is the graphic going to show ignition?
Standing by for cutoff, and we have engine cutoff.
So there we have cutoff, and as we said, you know, in addition to ICESat-2, we had these secondary payloads in the form of CubeSats tonight. These small satellites developed through our educational launch of nanosatellites program, which gives NASA partners and students an opportunity to design, test, and fly their own small satellites. And Blair Allen from NASA Edge is with several of the team members standing by for deployment of their CubeSats on Alana 18. Blair?
That's right, Mick, and we're just really glad to be here. We're going to try something very bold to go through all of the Alana 18 CubeSats right now with their representatives. I'm starting right now with Ryan, who's representing Elfin. Tell us a little bit about Elfin.
Yeah, so the Electron Losses in Fields Investigation is a space weather mission. So we're looking to see how the sun influences the Earth's magnetosphere. And our two instruments, the energetic particle detector and the flux gate, you know, we'll see how quickly these storms dissipate or not, as the case may be.
Now, I understand that you were a late addition. You didn't know that you were actually going to ride on this mission. You had to do some last-minute work to get on.
That's right. Well, Elfin A was on for the whole time, but we were able to put in Elfin B. So that adds a whole lot of extra science for us. So we get to see how these storms change, both spatially and temporally.
And I'm sure when you get the science from this mission, how will it be made available to?
It's all going on the website, and scientists all over the world will be looking at it. Open data policy.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan. We're going to ask your colleague to step in from Cal Poly. Thanks so much for being on the show. Sorry, just bear with us in our dynamic movement here. We want to cover these guys well. And so, Chris, you actually are from Cal Poly, and you worked on the Dave CubeSat. Tell us about Dave.
Yeah, so I worked on Dave. It's the damping and vibrations experiment from Cal Poly, and it has 3 beams in it that we excite and vibrate. And they all have tungsten particles in them at varying amounts, and we look at how they respond at every frequency through our sweep.
And basically that technology would then be transferred to other spacecraft builders so that their instruments could be better protected during liftoff and flight?
Yeah. We're looking at mostly the deployment part where you put out a boom from your satellite and making sure it doesn't shake your instrument apart.
Now, Cal Poly is, we've been to Cal Poly many times, and you guys have a long history of CubeSats. How long have you been working on CubeSats?
So I'm coming up on 4 years now. I'm in my grad year, but I've been working since my sophomore year at Cal Poly. That's
awesome. Now, have you worked with any of the other CubeSats that have launched so far?
Not the ones that have launched. I've got a few coming up, but ExoCube and ISX.
Now, is there like a CubeSat Maker Hall of Fame that you can get inducted into because you've worked on so many launched CubeSats?
I don't know.
We maybe should develop that. Now, one more question I got to ask about Dave, because does Dave stand for something, or is it literally? I thought it was from 2001 when I heard it, but it actually is for a person, right?
Yeah. So Dave's one of our lab staff members, and he was actually a student working on Dave a few years ago.
And so he where is he tonight? Is he able to watch the launch?
I believe he's watching from the VIP viewing section.
Oh, I see. They name a CubeSat after you, and then you get escorted to the VIP area. Okay. Yeah. All right, see how this works. Well, thanks so much, and best of luck. Now, you go get back on console, get ready for the launch, and we'll bring on Alex. Now, Alex, you're from a very important school, UCF. We visit Orlando all the time to go see Kennedy. I know the school well, but you work on SurfSat. What is SurfSat?
SurfSat stands for Surface Charging Sat. It studies plasma-induced charging on different surfaces and how that discharge can damage components.
And that's perfect because that helps protect spacecrafts from this electronic pulse. That's awesome. Now, another quick question. You've been involved with CubeSats how long? What's your history with the spacecraft?
It's been going on for a few years. I got brought on only the past few months to help bring it together and build it.
Did you imagine when you were filling out your application for college that before you were even done, you were going to be flying actual satellites?
No, getting into it, I had no idea what I'd be doing, but I love where I am.
And you got a really cool name with SurfSat. I mean, brilliant, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting name.
Yeah, love it. All right, well, I tell you what, go ahead and get back on console. We're going to bring on Sean Daly, who's going to talk about the mechanism that they use to actually deploy these CubeSats.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show,
my
Sean.
pleasure, Blair.
So listen, I see you're
coming up
holding
soon
a
on deployment
significant piece of hardware.
Cradling.
Yes,
Yes.
cradling very, very delicately.
Yeah.
Now, I understand this is how the CubeSats actually make their way into space. Explain the P-Pod for us.
So P-Pod, this is one of the deployers we have. This is what we've used exclusively on Delta II up until this point, and the last time that we're going to be able to utilize it. So this is nothing more than a holder container unit. We had our first.
Oh, that's great.
All right.
So that would have been one of the Elfin CubeSats perfectly launched. That's great. So
100 seconds from now, we'll have a second of Elfin B.
And P-Pod launched, obviously.
Absolutely. So we're looking forward to this. Alex was just on here. They're going to be the final of those. And so up until this point, we've had 14 universities represented. We've had one partner to NASA, government partner to NASA. You saw that on JPSS-1.
Sure.
Yeah. And so we're happy to do this. We've had 3 universities tied for with 3 launches each. So Michigan, Cal Poly, and Montana State, and UCLA today. With that first and hopefully second one going very shortly, we'll be tied for we'll be there in second.
Yeah, I don't want to, be too pushy.
Right.
But this Hall of Fame idea that I just developed
Blair,
in the show,
I'm telling you,
we have to work on this because
you're going to be in there too, buddy.
Yeah. See, that was my subtle plan, but clearly you saw right.
You know, we know the truth.
Well, I'm hoping one day that I can develop a CubeSat as well. But it's not just the P-Pod.
Right.
It's not just the CubeSats. You've had other partners that help this whole process because if I understand it correctly, this process models exactly what NASA scientists and other commercial partners go through when they want to launch a satellite.
Exactly.
Tell us about those partners.
So these students that get to work on this are going to be doing it and going to be moving in directly. When they move in from this development process and go into the second one.
Go. That's good. You love it, right?
Both of them.
There's awesome. 2. That's Elfin 2. Elfin B, sorry.
Yeah, Elfin B is moving on. So one more to go.
Yeah.
Final of the Delta
3.
IIs.
Yeah. Awesome.
So this is directly applicable to what they're going to utilize
so we're
in their
for one more
world upcoming. And so this is the areas where we get to see the biggest pushes. We're seeing them now. Military's moving that way. Government's moving that way for diversified, smaller, allowing you to be able to do large science with a cloud of these.
Well, now that's interesting because Elfin, I believe, is flying in formation.
Yes, exactly
and
right.
Obviously these tandem satellites and these more complex CubeSats are being developed.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about what's in store for the future for these.
Man, so it's moving on. It's not just CubeSats anymore. It's going to be CubeSats, and along with that, they're going to be moving up to ride shares. That you're going to see those. You saw that with Tropics coming up. Also, that's a larger version. It's going to get its own mission. So that's a team of satellites working together. You're going to be moving to ride shares, which are not just a kilogram, but somewhere in the nature of 300 to 500 kilograms, and a lot of science on those, and a lot more missions coming with them.
Now, would it be fair to say that despite the growth and the opportunity that you see in the CubeSat community, that you will always maintain these little
Absolutely.
the nanos, the smaller ones, because it seems like there's tons of applications.
There definitely is, and you see it in the commercial industry, you see it across the government, and there's opportunities here to be able to be a lot of science and a lot of capability in a small package. This learning opportunity is what
there
you
we
need.
go. Yeah,
that's so good. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Blair.
I love these opportunities. It's great. Now, was that SurfSat that
was?
Launched?
So you had Dave and SurfSat on that one.
I tell you what, this has been real tremendous. We want to see CubeSats continue, obviously, but we've got to go. You go join your team and congratulate them for us. We're going to go back to Mick and Joshua because they have an update on the spacecraft. Back to you guys.
All right.
Hey,
Let's see what
thanks,
this
Blair.
update is, and we'll wrap up
obviously,
here.
we heard lots of good things. We're hearing good things now coming in.
We're actually hearing from spacecraft, we're hearing some toast on countdown 1 right now.
And connect the world. Godspeed, Delta II, and thank you for your almost 30 years of unparalleled excellence.
So you can definitely hear kind of a little bittersweet there in the voice.
Absolutely.
Definitely some tears will probably be shed this morning, not for sad reasons. Well, I guess sad to see it go, but definitely like fond memories, but great teams.
Very proud of the Delta II and what she accomplished today, this final launch. And we were hearing, Josh, from the spacecraft team that commands were sent for solar array deploy, and those were verified. So we're just now kind of waiting to hear from them still on their positive health status once they get into the sun, and we hear that. Yeah, this was a successful Delta II mission for the ICESat-2 mission.
All right, so I'm going to switch over here. So now they're kind of just wrapping up here, and I figure I'm gonna wrap up as well and see if we can wrap up this whole thing. This is a long one here today, but a good one nonetheless here for the 100th consecutive successful flight for the Delta II rocket for United Launch Alliance, and the last and final Delta II launch ever for that platform. And also pretty exciting is that Tori Bruno during the broadcast announced that the final Delta II that still remains is going to go on display at the Kennedy Space Center in the Rocket Garden. So I've put out some pictures from the last time that I was down there. I'm sure you've seen them. But now I got a reason to go down there and take another selfie and get a selfie with the Delta II whenever they move that down to the Kennedy Space Center Rocket Garden there. So successful launch today. ICESat-2 was deployed successfully. Sounds like the solar arrays are out, and they're going to see if they're, once they get into the sun, sounds like they're still in the shadow of the Earth right now. Once they get into the sun, they'll check those out, make sure everything is still working. And then still happening during, we're not going to stick around for all this because I gotta go. I got stuff to do. But they're still going to have, there will be a fourth restart, which is the deorbit burn or the disposal burn. There will be a fourth burn that will happen an hour and 50 minutes. That's 50, an hour and 50 minutes after launch. So that's still another like half an hour from now. They will do a deorbit or disposal burn. Presumably they're going to wait that amount of time for those CubeSats to kind of drift out of the way and get safely away from the from that upper stage, so that they can then deorbit the second stage there. So they're going to deorbit it. They'll have that fourth and final burn to deorbit and send the that second stage back to Earth. Most of it will burn up in the atmosphere, but probably not all of it. But a lot of it will burn up in the atmosphere as it re-enters at super high speeds. And in addition to that, so they generally deorbit these over the ocean, so it'll mostly burn up over in the atmosphere, and then what's left of it will crash into the ocean and be destroyed into a million pieces. So that's what's still yet to come. We're not going to stick around for that because they're probably not going to show any of that. They may show it. If you want to, you can head over to NASA TV and they'll show you the rest of it and show you what's happening there. But we had a successful launch, and everything's good to go. And the next time that I'll be live will be Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time, actually during the regular day. So it's not some of these crazy overnight ones. This one's during the day too, so which was kind of a nice change. But so we'll have a live broadcast Monday night for the SpaceX BFR moon mission announcement, where they announce who the paying customers are that are going to be traveling on the first trip around the moon since the Apollo era. Only 24 people have ever traveled to the moon. And that includes, the people that just circled around the moon, like the Apollo 13 missions and some of the earlier missions, like Apollo 8. So only 24 astronauts have ever been to the moon. And then I think it's, 12 that have landed on the moon and walked on the moon. I think those numbers are right. I could be wrong. So yeah, this is a big deal that the BFR is going to announce who their passengers are as first people to actually go to the moon, not land on the moon, but they're going to go to the moon, circle around it, and come home. But those will be the first people that do that since the Apollo era. So a long time coming. Don't know when that's going to happen, but hopefully they announce that kind of stuff, what their timeline, their plan is come Monday night. So a big deal happening Monday. So we'll be live for that as well, and we'll see what they've got to say as far as their upcoming moon mission goes. So there it is, everybody. Appreciate everybody hanging out. We did some giveaways. We had some fun. We'll probably do some more, maybe some sticker giveaways because there's no launch on Monday, so I don't think we'll give away a mission patch, but maybe we'll give away some stickers. We gave away a Parker Solar Probe beach ball here today, so special thanks to Tori Bruno and United Launch Alliance for donating a whole bunch of these beach balls to our nonprofit organization, because we got to give one away today. So thanks very much to that, and I think Joy was the winner. I think it was Joy that won herself a beach ball. I was wondering how fast I could spin this and move this and see if it would screw with my green screen technology here. That's not too bad, actually. It's keeping up. But anyway, so there we go. Gave away some of those, gave away some stickers, and we had a good morning here. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. I know it was a long one, but I appreciate everybody for hanging out and joining the live broadcast. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video on YouTube or Facebook if you're following along on there. Maybe throw over some hearts, or if you're really feeling generous, some stars. I think that's on Periscope. Hearts and stars, that's all the Periscope thing. But whatever you can do to show that you enjoyed it. I look at all that stuff, and that's how I know that you guys are enjoying this stuff. And then I try to do more of that kind of thing. So anyways, that's our morning. Anybody have anything else? I think that's it. That's all I got, because I got nothing else left. So we had a good time, and I think I'm going to wrap this up. So we got a nice, beautiful day here in the Rochester, New York area. Nice sunny day. So I'm going to go try to enjoy some of the day. Hopefully you guys enjoy some of the day as well. And oh, I saw some. Oh no, everybody just saying thanks. Alex Ziegefeld says thanks. Joy says thanks. Yeah, thank you guys for hanging out here. So I think that's going to be it for me. So I'm going to wrap this thing up here, and then you guys can go about your day, and hopefully everybody has a good rest of the day and joins us on Monday. And then the next launch is not until the beginning of October, so we got some time until the next launch. But join us on Monday for the SpaceX BFR announcement, and we'll see what happens there. So, all right, everybody, that's it. Thanks for joining us. My name's Tori. This is Overlook Horizon, and we'll see you guys all on the next one. Thanks, guys. See ya.